Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans. And just by way of an intro to the video that follows, this is all about the Vendor Building Society, or VBS Mutual, which is an organization which municipalities are not allowed to put their money into. And despite that, the 15 poorest municipalities in South Africa poured over $1 billion rand into VBS. And that money has gone walkabout. All the little politicians have just taken that money. And again, we're talking about the 15 poorest municipalities in South Africa who've been impacted by this, because they've got CFOs or chief financial officers who don't know what the hell they're doing. They're there because of affirmative action, and when they're told to sign and do something, they just do it because they don't know what the hell they're doing. Now, they're being blamed by the ANC directly in the video that follows as the people who are the cause for the loss of the money to the municipalities. And I should say that this loss is so impactful that people who work for those municipalities and rubbish collection in a whole range of different areas within the organization are not going to be paid because they've lost all their money. And imagine what are going to happen to the services in those municipalities. Now, these are largely African municipalities. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of context. The ANC woman who comes up first blames KPMG, the organization that was supposed to audit VBS and the municipalities. Of course, the ANC had no role to do with the corruption and the money that was just passed out to their mates on the side. No. It's all KPMG's fault. And the third speaker in this video is our friend Floyd Shivambu, who is in the center of this corruption with his brother Brian Shivambu, just been given 10 million rand. And God knows how much has been given to the EFF, because that's still got to be looked at. But Floyd Shivambu, in this parliamentary exchange, is blaming the executives of VBS Mutual Bank. So the politicians hold no blame at all, even though they were the ones who laundered the money out. Okay? They were the ones who laundered the money out, but the people to blame are the auditors, KPMG, and the people who run VBS Mutual Bank, who are there because of affirmative action. I don't know what the hell they're doing. This is the modern South Africa. Now, the ham and the sandwich in this video, the second guy who speaks is from the DA. And he makes it quite clear. He says, hey, Mr. Shivambu, you're one of the beneficiaries of this heist, and not only that, but the people that you have actually impacted on are the very small and very fragile businesses who are investing in the VBS, and you have totally cleaned them out. You've cleaned out not the whites. You've cleaned out the Africans. You've destroyed their businesses. You've destroyed their municipalities. You've destroyed their lives. And here you are now trying to lay the blame on someone else. Who stole the money? It wasn't KPMG, and it was not the executives of the VBS. It was the parliamentarians who you will hear talking in the next video. Now, before I go, remember to please support Black Monday. I will have the links down below. It's this Monday on the 29th of October. There's still time for you to get involved. and be part of a historic occasion. The world needs to know what's going on in South Africa when it comes to white genocide. And if you are in South Africa, you need to be part of it. Let me say it again. You need to be part of it. Whether you actually go and join in a march or whether you just support the organization, you need to be part of it. And finally, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. All right, guys, and I will be here on Sunday night, 8 p.m. Johannesburg time live. I will put a link down below to the links to Black Monday, so you can speak to the organizers direct, and so that you can actually also get the link and subscribe to my live channel on Sunday night. Alrighty.
Are there any objections? There's no objections. It's agreed to. There's no request for declarations this time around. So we will move on to the next item on the order paper. The next item on the order paper is a subject for discussion in the name of the Honorable Ms. T.V. Tobias on the VBS Mutual Bank report titled The Great Bank Heist as a matter of public importance. I now call the Honorable T.V. Tobias to introduce the subject.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Members. Good afternoon. Honorable Chairperson, the African National Congress brought before the House this Asian motion on a matter of public importance to put across its clear position on what transpired at the Vendor Building Society, which is known as VBS. The ANC also want to say up front that we sympathize with depositors, retail depositors, ordinary South Africans who invested their pension monies and their savings in this bank, which ended in this crisis. VBS, honorable members, it's a mutual bank established by an Act of Parliament and the Mutual Banks Act of 1993. And it's also registered as and regulated by the South African Reserve Bank. And its share capital comprises of 3 classes of shares, namely permanent interesting shares, 2, 72 months fixed period shares, and 3, 60 months fixed period shares. And these products are savings, fixed deposits, and short-term loans, including investment loans and fuel contract loans. And in short, the difference between a mutual bank and a commercial bank lies in the class of products it provides, in that a mutual bank relies heavily on deposits for savings as opposed to a commercial bank which holds stock and makes profits. And honorable members, it becomes imperative for me to also explain that the majority shareholders in this bank is the Public Investment Corporation, known as the PIC, which is a state entity, and Jambewi Investment, which also holds a 25% stake, and the entire 48% stake is held by black companies that comprises 300 individuals. In terms of the Municipal Finance Management Act, municipalities are not allowed to deposit money in mutual banks due to the risky nature of such banks. Only commercial banks are used by the South African government for simple reasons. Municipality funds are meant for service delivery projects. And the test lies in the liquidity positions of commercial banks as opposed to mutual banks. We also need to mention up front that VBS flouted the law by focusing on municipal deposits, which comprise 75% of its total deposit. And VBS continued to accept municipal deposits even after engaging National Treasury on phasing out municipal deposit based on a report, Honorable Mayor, that Parliament received earlier this year when the problem started. In short, Honorable members, VBS management seem to have involved themselves in a self-destructive mission. In total, the bank accepted 1 billion from municipalities. Now, one asks oneself, why was VBS having a concentration of deposit takers in a form of municipalities whose programs are very clear? Why was this business model considered? This leaves us with much to think about. In March this year, the Standing Committee on Finance requested the South African Reserve Bank and the National Credit Regulator to brief us amid allegations of corruption taking place at VBS. This was also after it was clear that the South African Reserve Bank has started to monitor VBS after it failed to report to the South African multiple option settlement system. It started to be evident that VBS was facing a liquidity crisis. VBS then resorted to engage in PIC for funding. After VBS having failed to submit its report, the Reserve Bank had to report it to the Minister of Finance for further action. We also needed to report that the African National Congress has adopted a resolution on economic development and transformation. And subsequent to that, the Standing Committee on Finance engaged in a rigorous process to transform the financial sector with stakeholders who appeared in front of the committee. Therefore, it is consistent with the ANC resolution for SCOF in its programs to focus on this trajectory. SCOF tabled a report in this August House on financial sector transformation, which the House adopted in November last year. In the report, we indicated the high concentration level of economic commanding heights by the big banks, controlling 85% stake of the total market. We also reported on a need to diversify and deracialize the market to ensure black economic empowerment. Therefore, when the VBS crisis was reported, the ANC study group called for the rescue of VBS based on the above-mentioned principles. However, we were upfront on the action that need to be taken against those found wanting in the VBS saga. We as COF expressed our outrage at plundering of the bank in what is termed the VBS heist. We therefore call on the Hawks and the National Prosecuting Authority to act swiftly and decisively against those alleged to be responsible for the collapsing of the bank. We will also ensure that the NPA and the Hawks report urgently on the action taken to investigate such individuals implicated in the forensic report. We also need to say upfront and report our dismay once again against KPMG. KPMG is found wanting, and we as the committee will fast-track our regulatory framework on the role played by auditing firms in the South African economy. We are also concerned about job losses that workers will incur and pleads with the financial sector to consider using their expertise in other banks. We will also draw lessons from the VBS saga and request authorities to consider the rescue of this bank. And the alleged corruption by management must be dealt with. We, as the African National Congress, cannot afford to be perceived to be condoning corruption. And if the collapse of the bank is allowed, we will continue to condone racial stereotypes that black people and Africans in particular does not deserve the right to participate in the financial sector. However, we are not blinded by black loyalty without emphasis on effectiveness and efficient black leadership. There is a saying that
Honorable member, your time has now expired.
It's not.
You can have that saying at the end of the speech when you respond to the debate. Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Milam.
Chairperson, it's been called the greatest bank heist in South African history. And the sad thing is that it was perpetrated with the knowledge and the active participation of the bank's management and officials. But the rot goes much deeper than this. These greedy individuals brought on board the municipal managers, chief financial officers, and mayors of 15 municipalities. They did this through bribery and pressure from senior government officials and other well-connected political figures. People like Danny Masiza, the provincial treasurer of the ANC in Limpopo, or the deputy chairperson of the ANC in Limpopo, Florence Radzilani. People like Brian Shivambu, the brother of ANC Chief Whip Floyd Shivambu. Now, 94...
Definitely.
Order, honorable members.
I don't have such a brother.
Order, honorable members.
I don't have
Chief
such a
Whip,
brother.
why are you rising?
House Chair, I don't have a brother called Brian.
Oh, we know that, Chief Whip.
I didn't say Brian Tembu, I said Brian Shivambu.
Continue, honorable member.
94 VBS staff members have been retrenched, but they aren't the guilty parties here. No, the blood-sucking leeches and parasites that have fed off the savings of some of our country's poorest citizens must be held accountable. Chairperson, the VBS heist was blatant in its audacity, but completely unsophisticated in its implementation. It was little more than a giant pyramid scheme which saw some 1.2 billion rand of municipal funds disappear, never to be seen again. The consequences of this heist have been dire. The curator of VBS has indicated that it is unlikely that municipalities will get their deposits back. He initially suggested that they might get 10 cents in the rand. It now appears that this was optimistic and they are unlikely to get anything at all. This means that these municipalities, which include some of the poorest and worst run in the country, will be unable to deliver the basic services that are their primary function. So once again, the residents lose out because of ANC mismanagement and corruption. In Fetagamo, Greater Tubatse municipality, for example, the municipality is in all likelihood not going to be able to pay the wages of municipal staff this month. Basic services such as water supply and the completion of hundreds of RDP houses are on hold because of the loss of some 245 million rand invested illegally in VBS. In Greater Giyani municipality, where 161 million rand was illegally invested in VBS, the newly appointed municipal manager has indicated that there will be long-term impact on service delivery. Now, Vembe District Municipal Mayor Florence Radzilani, remember her? She's the ANC Deputy Chair in Limpopo who cried because her 300,000 rand Christmas from VBS wasn't enough. She admitted that the municipality had been doing business with VBS since 2014. They lost 316 million rand, which equates to a third of their annual operating revenue, and have an outstanding debt to the Department of Water and Sanitation of 691 million rand that they have not serviced since December last year. And here's the kicker. In July this year, she said that they, and I quote, didn't know of any regulation that restricted the investment. Maybe she and the other 14 mayors, MMs, and CFOs should try reading the Municipal Finance Management Act. Because Section 7.3b of that Act specifically prohibits municipalities from opening accounts with mutual banks. Treasury even notified them that they were acting illegally, but they thought they knew better. Every single one of the municipalities with deposits at VBS Bank is included in the 87 distressed and dysfunctional councils identified by COGTA Minister Zweli Mkhize earlier this year. 2 of them Vembe District Municipality in Limpopo, and Madibeng in the northwest received disclaimed audit opinions because their financial documents were so poor that the AG could not make a pronouncement on them. And what action has the minister sitting over there taken? None. Only one of the municipalities that lost money in the VBS heist is under administration, and most do not have a financial recovery plan in place. And lest we forget, there were others that were affected too. The 22,000 retail depositors who trusted their local bank with their life savings, only to see it plundered and used to fund the luxurious lifestyles of neo-Marxist Gucci revolutionaries like some members of this House, to buy helicopters and Lamborghinis and Louis Vuitton luggage. They at least were protected up to 100,000 Rand by Reserve Bank guarantees, not like the small businesses who entrusted VBS with their finances. They won't be getting their money back. Chairperson, it was only through the Democratic Alliance, through their questions, that their legal deposit of funds at VBS was exposed. The ANC should hang its head in shame, as should all of those who have stood by and watched this outrageous theft without taking action.
The next speaker is the Honorable Shavambu.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson.
Order, honorable members. Order.
Point of order, Chair.
Order, honorable members. Honorable Shavambu.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes.
Honorable Shavambu, will you just take a seat? I just want to see why the honorable member is rising. Why are you rising, honorable member?
Chairperson, I want to know if it's parliamentary for a member who is implicated in this matter to be speaking.
No,
before the House.
honorable member. There are specific. Honorable Shavambu, will you take your seat, please? I want to draw your attention to the rules. And the rules is quite clear that when you have evidence or you have certain information at your disposal, you must submit it to the speaker in the form of a substantive motion. You cannot just make an allegation like that, and that is completely out of order, honorable member, and I want you to withdraw that remark.
Chairperson, I asked a question. I didn't make a comment.
Honorable member, withdraw the remark, please.
Chairperson, I withdraw the question.
Thank you. Honorable Shavambu, continue.
Thank you very much, House Chair, for providing leadership on some degree of insanity. You know, earlier when we were speaking here, there were people who were singing "Pay Back the Money." So I was reminded that sages say that, you know, imitation is the most sincere but artless form of flattery. So we are flattered by, as the EFF, by those that learn from us in terms of how we demand accountability from those that are found to be doing wrong things. But the Democratic Alliance and a faction in the ANC are barking at the wrong tree. And you know what normally barks, so we'll not entertain the barking that has been happening here in terms of the issues of VBS. We're going to state here categorically clear without any fear of contradiction that the EFF and ourselves as members of parliament never benefited anything from the VBS looting and the so-called heist that happened there. But we want to give you clearer context of what happened there. The fact of the matter is that there was total wrongdoing by the executives of VBS Mutual Bank.
Honorable Shavambu, will you just take your seat?
I'd like to ask
Why
the
are you
member,
rising, honorable member?
I'd like to ask the member a question. His leader
Honorable member.
His leader said that they couldn't.
Honorable member, you know the rules. Subject yourself to the rules and abide by the rules. You cannot ask the member if you want to take a question and then you just carry on to ask the question anyway. Continue, Honorable Shavambu.
Chairperson, we as the EFF, without any fear of contradictions, wants to call on all the law enforcement agencies to take decisive action against all the people that did wrong in VBS Mutual Bank. But I want to give you context. Minister of Finance has just arrived. Is that from 2014, National Treasury, the South African Reserve Bank, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs were aware that municipalities are putting money, are depositing money in a mutual bank against the law. And because of opportunism, National Treasury didn't do anything about it. Even when the question was asked to National Treasury, they just gave the list of municipalities that were exposed to VBS Mutual Bank. And not only VBS Mutual Bank, by the way, including the Grahamstown Building Society, which is a mutual bank, has got municipal deposits up to this date. The Reserve Bank has been aware throughout the existence of the bank that your exposure to municipalities is dangerous. And the only caution that the Reserve Bank gave to VBS Mutual Bank was that your depositors, they are concentrated with municipalities. Please balance it, not altogether discontinue it. So the regulatory opportunism that defined the National Treasury, that defined the South African Reserve Bank and COGTA, is what gave rise to what we are faced with now, where people realized that there's a lawless environment, and then they did a lot of lawless loans to themselves in terms of the monies that were not supposed to be given to them. And there must be action, unmitigated action in that regard. But what is to be done? One is that there must be an attempt by the curator to save the bank and give it back to the depositors. In any way, a mutual bank is not supposed to have a single dominant shareholder. All the depositors of a mutual bank are by definition supposed to be the shareholders of that particular bank. So in the same way we did with African banks, let us put VBS Mutual Bank under curatorship, save it, and hand it over to the depositors with a principal agreement that no single shareholder is going to have more than 2% control over the bank, in a manner in which that got to happen throughout that particular environment. But this incident must not divert all of us to think that black people and a black government cannot run banks. That is why we must pass the Banks Amendment Bill as tabled in the Standing Committee on Finance, so that we have a diversified bank ownership in South Africa. We must not be dictated by shouters and detractors who are just barking at things that they've got no understanding about. We stay firm that there must be action against those who have done wrong, and then we must take forward the struggle for economic inclusion and balanced bank ownership in South Africa. Thank you very much.